you eventually went into I maintain multi-party coalition, with the Democratic Alliance being a key part of that coalition. Why didn't you go into coalition with the EFF and MK, who would have seemed to be more ideologically aligned with the ANC's mission? Was it true that their negotiating teams made unreasonable demands?
The National Executive Committee of the ANC put together a negotiating team. I happened to be part of that, led by the SG. The mandate was go and talk to everybody, invite everybody. And the first people we interacted with, interestingly, was the EFF.
First?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
The first. And they put demands that just undermine organizational culture. And we then, immediately after the EFF met the DA, they also wanted to put their own conditions to say, on condition you don't bring so and so and so. We dismissed all of them. We dismissed every party that wanted to put terms of say, who do you include and who do you exclude? We said, we have a mandate to talk to everyone. All these negotiations, we have had them at the level of bilaterals. We haven't met with everybody under one roof.
Interesting.
It was the ANC negotiating with each and every party.
Wow. So that's how you divided and ruled all of them.
No, that's how we had to consolidate our influence. Exactly.
Brilliant. Strategic. I won't lie.
So we negotiated with all of them, including those that have got one representative. There's no one that we didn't talk to.
Wow. So you had bilaterals with literally everyone.
Yes. Others we met 3 times, 4 times and stuff. And we were ready to work with the EFF. We were very ready. We were ready to work with MK, just as we were ready to work with Freedom Front Plus. What was unfortunate was the mandating processes of some of the parties. And I think it was unfortunate because part of what we were told was, no, we want to work with you. The SG of MKP came, Floyd, telling us, no, the EFF wants to work with you because our intention is to strangle you and kill you and bury you. And, okay, fine, that's fine. We'll see. We'll strangle and kill the other. But on condition you give us the deputy president. If you are not going to remove President Ramaphosa, give us the deputy president. He said, no, that's not how you negotiate. Here are the principles. What are you saying about these principles? They did not. And the second, the third, we met the EFF 4 times. And the last time they came, they lectured us, told us how useless we are, how they are mobilizing progressives, and how they are going to have their own candidate with everybody, including the DA, to counter our candidate. The DA will vote with them. And if you know Floyd, you know Floyd. And thereafter he stood up and he left. After the lecture and the insults and stuff. Wow. We were with the national chair of the ANC, if you know the national chair of the ANC. But he was so meek that day, he couldn't believe what was happening to us.
Yeah.
The SG was there, and Floyd was leading the charge with Ndlozi.
Wow.
Yes, and they then left. It was a very painful experience.
So they basically antagonized you.
Yes, they just told us that they are going to show us, they are working with everybody, they will prove to us that they will support any candidate by President Ramaphosa, and they left. MK, for every delegation, we met MK 5 times. We met the EFF 4 times, we met MK 5 times.
Wow.
And part of the discussions in MK were very hollow. discussing the NDR, and scrapping the charges against Mr. Zuma.
Wow.
And then the next delegation comes. Do you think you people have the authority to lead this country? All these kind of things. And in that period, secretaries were changed twice. We had one secretary. We had the same officials and the same negotiating team. On the eve of the swearing in, on the eve of the swearing in, we're still here in Johannesburg. We agreed that let's meet in Cape Town. Are you coming to Cape Town?
Wow, so even up to there.
Yes, on the eve, the last people we spoke to prior to us flying to the Western Cape was MKP. And we're saying, you can meet with our technical team, Abu Makura and Abu Phoebe. Let's meet in Cape Town. We set up an op center in Cape Town. We called them, and nobody had the authority to come and meet with us.
No ways.
At the swearing in. We were there at Cape Sun. We were running the operation there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how tolerant the NC is. And they didn't pitch up. Remember, they didn't even come for the swearing in.
And there's a deadline for the swearing in. It had to happen.
And part of the reason why we wanted to discuss with MKP was about KwaZulu-Natal. It was also about KwaZulu-Natal because we had accepted that they had won.
Sure.
So they didn't pitch up. Instead, we're told that they're in the streets, they're protesting and all those things, not understanding that this is a rule-based game. You opt out with your numbers and stuff, you forfeit what is yours. So we met with them. We met with ACDP. We met with everybody. We met with the DA that wanted to have a grand coalition with us. And we refused.
I recall that very, very
We
clearly.
refused to have a grand coalition with the DA. We said we recognize every party that is elected and is in the National Assembly. And all other parties must be treated equally. Remember, since I said it's the NC negotiating with everybody. So they can't then want to be part of us. We refuse to carry the DA. And interestingly, when we met with the other parties like the Freedom Front Plus, they actually said, can we ask you a question? And we said, yes. Have you spoken to the PAC?
The Freedom Front Plus asked you that?
Yes. And we said, wow, why? And their response was, no, remember, those are the Freedom Front of you black people. We meet with the PAC. The PAC says, don't leave the Freedom Front Plus outside. So
those two were actually working.
And we never actually said to them, we're talking to them. Because we never wanted to disclose what we have discussed with anyone. Because it's the NC negotiating. We respected every part. But that's how tedious and strenuous this exercise was. We respected our relationship with every party that South Africans voted for and had a seat in parliament. We then made a commitment that signing of the statement of intent is not a grand signing. That's why we don't agree with the coalition. Because a coalition, we would have had one statement of intent signed by all of us. Everybody signed the statement of intent with the ANC, not with any other party. So there's no statement of intent of all parties combined.
There's 11 different ones.
You have a statement of intent agreed upon by the ANC Freedom Front Plus ANC PAC of Azane.
I didn't know that,
That is the story.
That's why we've never seen that document with everyone's
so Zwibo. It's not there.
Wow.
The document that exists is the document of the ANC.
I'm not going to lie. You ran circles around these parties. I'm not even going to lie. Like, you broke them up, you divided them, then you figured out, actually, if we bring everyone, then we don't need any one of them. And
that's why even now, when the president painstakingly constituted his cabinet, he spoke to everybody, but the beauty of it was done through the negotiating team, where some will come and say, like these one-man parties that, no, we can't be part of the cabinet because we are going to be swallowed. Yeah. We want to work with you, but we want to exercise oversight on you. And that's why you have Rise Mzansi today. They are in what? In Scopa?
Yeah.
And you have Musi in what?
Yeah, appropriations. Yeah.
It's that kind of a one-on-one negotiation where they're saying, we need the space because going in there, I'm gone.
And all these parties agreed to meet one-on-one and they never said we must meet together.
No. Possibly in the clearinghouse there in Parliament.
Sure. When everything's done.
Even now when there are issues, political issues on the GNU, the center is the African National Congress.
No, you're in charge.
Through the office of the SG. And it's a story yet to be told.
Absolutely.
And an explanation yet to be made, even to our own comrades, because even with the Communist Party, Sizwe, we consulted the party. And amongst other things, the party said, go and do everything, don't lose state power. The party was on our side, saying, prioritize EFF. And we did. But EFF lost the appreciation of the strategy.
Was Julius Malema ever in those negotiations? No. Oh, okay. So it was led by the then deputy president.
Yes. It was FLOYD in many instances. We hear, he would call presidents talk about presidents. But with us, the president and the DP were nowhere in the space.
Sure.
It was the other 5 officials.
Yeah.
So we never interacted with him direct.
So interesting. It's a fascinating story, and I feel like we're learning about our history in this conversation because we haven't heard very much how you conceived of putting this package together. I've said on this podcast many times, you retained the presidency, you retained deputy president, you retained key ministries, absolutely,
foreign policy.
You somehow also the speaker.
Yes.
And you won those negotiations. My statement is that you lost the election, but you won the negotiations.
We lost the elections, but we won the leadership to take South Africa, to move South Africa forward. And without undermining the contribution of these parties.
Sure.
Because in good spirit, they wanted to work with the ANC because they realized that there is no other party that can help to move South Africa forward other than the ANC. And in that statement of intent, you'll remember, we emphasized that there must be the respect of the Constitution, the rule of law, as well as foreign policy. And that's why even in this trying moment, we keep referring that, remember, the Constitution, the role of the president, the foreign policy, any other thing, let's negotiate.